So, there's this really interesting, almost split-screen thing happening in Canada right now. On one side, you've got some serious economic headwinds picking up, but on the other, you have this incredible celebration of national culture grabbing the world's attention. Let's get into it.
And the economic side of the story really starts right here, with this number, 7.1%. That's the brand new national unemployment rate. It's a pretty stark figure, and it points to a real squeeze that's being felt across the country. A squeeze that's being fueled by some major tensions in global trade.
So you gotta ask, right? How do we get to this point? What's really putting the pressure on the Canadian economy? Well, it turns out a huge part of the answer isn't actually inside Canada's borders at all.
Yeah, we're really looking at a tale of two big trade disputes. One is with its absolute closest neighbor, and the other with a global superpower. And both of them are hitting some key Canadian industries and hitting them hard.
Okay, so let's break this down. The pressure is coming from two different directions. From the south, you've got the Trump administration's tariffs hitting foundational industries like steel, aluminum, and auto parts. Then, from the east, there's this whole complicated dispute with China over canola. They've launched what's called an anti-dumping investigation. Basically, they're looking into whether Canada is selling its canola at unfairly low prices, which, could lead to some massive penalties.
And don't make any mistake, this canola thing is a huge deal. We're talking about an industry that's worth 5 billion Canadian dollars. That's the sheer amount of economic activity that's at risk the longer this trade fight drags on.
And this whole conflict has just been this slow burn of uncertainty. First, boom, a massive preliminary tariff of nearly 76% was slapped on. So naturally, Chinese buyers started looking elsewhere. But here's the real kicker. The final ruling on all this has been pushed all the way back to March of 2026. I mean, can you imagine? That is a long, long time for thousands of Canadian farmers to just be holding their breath.
All right, so you're getting squeezed from two sides. What's the government's play here? Well, they've come up with a new national strategy, an economic defense that's all about strengthening things right there at home. Prime Minister Carney's administration is essentially fighting back with a three-part plan. First, they're setting up a $5 billion fund to help companies pivot and find new markets. Second, there's this big Buy Canadian policy, basically telling all federal agencies, hey, look at home first. And third, they're building up direct support for the workers who are getting caught in the middle of all this.
Now, to understand the next big move, you just need a little background on this one policy, the Zero-Emission Vehicle Mandate, or ZEV for short. It was a really ambitious environmental goal that was supposed to kick in very soon.
But in what was a pretty significant decision, they hit the pause button on that. And the logic was, look, the auto sector is already getting hammered by those U.S. tariffs on steel and car parts. Piling this on top right now was just seen as too much strain.
And that safety net for people? It's getting pretty specific. For workers, it means more flexible employment insurance and new platforms for retraining. And for those canola farmers, there's a direct injection of $370 million in incentives to help them weather this storm. The whole idea is to create a buffer against these shocks coming from the outside.
Okay, but remember that second story I mentioned at the top, because while all this heavy economic maneuvering is going on, Canada is stepping into a totally different kind of spotlight. We're about to make a hard pivot from trade wars to film stars.
And that spotlight is shining right on the Toronto International Film Festival, or TIFF as everyone calls it. For 11 days, the entire focus of the film world is squarely on Canada.
And it's a real moment of national pride, too. A huge highlight of the festival is the world premiere of a documentary celebrating one of the country's most beloved comedy legends ever, the great John Candy. It's just this wonderful moment to look back and honor a true cultural icon.
But at the exact same time, the festival is buzzing about the future. You've got star Sydney Sweeney earning just incredible reviews for her powerful performance in the new movie Christie. So it's this amazing showcase of vibrant new talent that's generating a completely different set of headlines for the country.
And this is where you really see those two stories collide. On the one hand, you have this intense 11-day burst of cultural celebration and global acclaim at TIFF. And on the other, you've got this long, drawn-out period of economic anxiety for farmers, stretching for over 600 days until that canola ruling finally comes down in 2026. It's a brief, bright moment versus a long, anxious wait.
So it all leaves you with this fascinating question. When a country's facing these major economic headwinds, how important are these moments of cultural pride? Is a nation defined more by its resilience, by just getting through the tough times? Or is it defined by the art and the stories it chooses to share with the world?
Definitely something to think about.